You're gearing up to launch, but you are still being haunted by the dreaded inventory question. You've already done all of this work to create your product or find a vendor for your product, and now you're hesitant to launch because you don't believe that you will have enough inventory. Or maybe you're wondering how much inventory is enough. Is there a such thing as too much inventory? Well, lucky for you, today I am answering all of those questions and more. And by the end of this video, you will leave with an inventory strategy that you can apply to your launch. In today's video, we are covering the misconceptions of inventory because, baby, there are a ton out there. I'm also going to be sharing the factors that contribute to the amount of inventory that you should have at launch. And then I'm going to be sharing my suggestions for how much inventory you should have for your launch, dependent on the specific business that you are going to launch. So if you are excited for that, make sure that you give this video a thumbs up because it is going to be so juicy, y'all, okay? And so just in case you don't know who I am, hey, I am Chanel, the brand hustler, and I drop branding related gems for my product-based business owners, okay? So whether you are gearing up to launch, whether you own a business already and you know that you can make some improvements to your brand and to your business, then this is the place for you. Make sure that you hit that subscription button down below and hit the notification bell so that way you don't miss the next time that I upload. Now, let's get into this video, shall we? In the first part of this video, we are going to be discussing the misconceptions of inventory. But before I hop into that, I want you to comment down below, what are some things you heard about the amount of inventory that you should have? Did you hear a specific number? Did somebody tell you to maybe get a grant to afford inventory? Like, what are some of the things that you've heard about inventory, period? Comment that down below and let's have a conversation. Let's dispel some of those myths. Let's maybe use some of that as pointers, whatever it may be, share that down below. Now that you share that down below, let me get real with you, okay? And let's discuss these misconceptions one-on-one, okay, so that we can just throw them out the window. The main misconception that I hear a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs say is that they don't have enough inventory and they push themselves to get to a certain amount of money so that way they can then afford this amount of inventory. And what happens is, as they're trying to save for this magical amount, let's say the amount was like $30,000, they end up delaying their launch year after year. And honestly, that is not good, okay? Obviously, you want to be prepared for your launch, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but you also don't want to have this kind of ideal number that you're shooting for in inventory just because you see somebody else doing it or you heard it from somebody else, that you continuously delay yourself from launching because you haven't gotten to that point yet. So when it comes to inventory, you really want to reflect on a couple of things, right? Which we'll discuss the factors of inventory. But the first thing you really want to reflect on is your brand. And this is the inner work that you need to do before you launch a business. You need to figure out what angle are you taking once you come into the industry. If you are going to be a high-end exclusive brand, then you don't need to try to be Walmart that pushes out thousands of products because you are not Walmart. You are not trying to go for value. You are trying to go for a high-end experience, an exclusive experience, which means you want to have a limited amount of pieces, right? And if your brand is, on the opposite spectrum of that, then that affects your pricing, and then that also affects how you want to stock your inventory as well. But one thing that I want to just stress is that you don't have to launch out the gate with hundreds of products. You don't even have to launch out the gate with 50 products, okay? You don't have to do that. And to prove it to you, I have two specific examples that I want to share with you. The first one is Lorvae. This was a brand that was started by De'Ara Taylor from DK4L. She blew up from a couples channel and then she continued to do her own thing. And one of the things that she recently did was she launched her own sunglass business. When she launched this sunglass business, she launched with 4 pairs of sunglasses, y'all. 4. And those 4 pairs of sunglasses sold out almost instantaneously. And that is a true, that's true proof that you don't need a ton of products to actually have a successful launch result. And now I know that you're probably like, okay, well, De'Ara Taylor, she's a major influencer and a lot of people know her, so her launch was gonna be successful regardless. Okay, then this next example is for you. And this next example is actually one of my past clients, and she actually came on a live with me, and her name is Ziona, right? And so she actually launched Zion Organic Essentials, which is a feminine care line. And when she launched, she only launched with 3 products. She had a wash, a feminine wash, she had a more advanced feminine wash, and then she had a refreshing spray. Those were her 3 products. And she also sold out when she launched as well. The amount of products that you have does not necessarily matter. Like the amount of inventory does not necessarily matter if you have the strategy behind it to push it. Okay? So don't let the misconception that you need hundreds of products stop you from actually launching your business. Now that we've thrown those misconceptions out of the window, let's get into the factors that affect your inventory, because this right here is gonna give you the blueprint so that you can decide how much inventory you are going to launch with. So there are 3 main factors that I tell all of my clients that they should consider when they're trying to determine how much inventory they are going to launch with. And the first one is your budget. Realistically, how much can you afford? Obviously, you can, get a second job or do a side hustle to make a little bit more money to support this new business venture of yours. But even with that new side hustle or side job, there's going to be a cap on how much you can make. And so you have to figure out, how does your current income or incomes flow into this new business that you're starting? And what does that look like? And budget out your money, okay? So for me, when I launched my shoe boutique, I was working a 9 to 5. And I literally saved for, I wanna say, maybe about 6 months to actually start up my shoe boutique. I realistically could save a certain percentage of my paycheck, and I did the math to figure out what that percentage would be, and I used that as my budget entirely for my launch. And then when I made money, then I could reinvest that back into my business. So you wanna make sure that you are considering your budget. Don't try to get Beyonce-sized inventory on I don't even wanna disrespect any of these artists, but don't try to get a Beyonce-sized inventory and you don't have the budget for it. Okay, so make sure that you are considering your budget when you are considering inventory. If you can afford more, then obviously you can get more. If you can't afford that much, then don't stress yourself to try to get to that point. The second factor that you want to consider when it comes to how much inventory you should have are your goals. Now this one right here, I love to break this down, okay? So pretty much, have you set launch goals for your business? If your answer is no, you need to do that first before you go and buy inventory in bulk. The reason why is because when you set goals after you have all this inventory, your goals and your inventory don't necessarily align. Or you set goals that are a panic effect of this enormous amount of inventory that you have. So what I really want you to do is I really want you to sit down and brainstorm, how much do I realistically want to make within my month of launching? So within my first 30 days of being open, how much do I realistically want to make? How much will either make me happy, pay whatever percentage of my bills needs to be paid, whatever it is like that this money is going to, what goal amount would make me happy for that month? Okay, and if you need to, set it for the entire year and divide it by 12 so that way you can figure out what your launch month amount is going to be. Based on that goal, I then want you to take the average price for your future products and do some math to figure out how many products you're going to need to sell within that 30-day time period to get to that launch month goal. Does that make sense? So for example, if my goal was to get to $100 my launch month and my average price of my products are going to be $5, let's say. If I do the math and I divide 100 by 5, that gives me 20. So that means I need to sell 20 products during my launch month. That way I can get to my goal. Me knowing that it only takes 20 products to get to my launch, then I know that realistically, I only need 20 pieces of inventory. I can get a little bit for buffer room or a little bit that I'll use for content or send to an influencer or anything like that. So maybe I'll get maybe 25 or 30 pieces of inventory, but my goal is to just move that 20. If I sell more, great. But my goal is to move that 20. So therefore, those 20 pieces are what I need. The third factor that influences your inventory is your effort. How much effort are you actually going to put into the strategy behind your launch? How much effort are you going to put into the content that you're taking? How much effort are you putting into learning certain things so that way you know how to successfully launch your business, how to successfully move that product, how to successfully connect with your audience? How much effort are you giving? If you know that you have 2 jobs and 3 kids and your time is split, then realistically, you may not have, 100% to give to this business. Although you'd love to, realistically, you don't because of your life. So think about the percentage of effort that you're actually giving towards your launch. Obviously, do as much as you can to give more effort to it so that way you can have a great launch, but just be realistic. Sometimes I hear people set goals like, oh, I want to make $25,000 during my launch month, but I got this job, and I do Uber, and I got 5 kids, and I got some vacations planned, and I'm trying to make this happen. And that's not really realistic because you don't have the time to actually put in the effort, or you haven't even thought about making the time to put in the effort, okay? So those are the 3 factors: budget, goals, and the amount of effort. And so like I said, one of the types of effort that you can give towards your launch is creating a launch strategy and actually putting in the work leading up to that launch. Speaking of effort, your launch marketing strategy is something that you do not want to skimp on, okay? So I am going to help you out. I am going to teach you my 90-day launch strategy that I used when I owned my shoe boutique that made me $1,000 my first week. It's made me $11,000 in 11 days. And most recently, it's made me $25,000 in 5 days. It has allowed me to just build an amazing brand, get some coin, and just see amazing results. So if you want to learn what that launch strategy is, then you definitely want to open up my description box and sign up for the training called the 90-day launch. We are going deep into launch marketing strategy, and I'm sharing all of these good gems with you. So open up the description box, click the link, and I'll see you in class. So we have covered a lot. We talked about throwing those misconceptions of a large inventory out the window. We've also talked about the factors of inventory. So the fact that budget, goals, and the amount of effort that you're putting into your business and your launch. And we talked about how that affects your inventory. And you've also signed up for the 90-day launch training. So now that you've done all that, I'm pretty sure you're wondering what my advice is. What is my take on how much inventory you should launch for your business? If you're wondering that, well, lucky for you, this is the part of video where I am going to actually share that with you. So before I share my suggestions, I want to highlight a huge mistake that a lot of new entrepreneurs make. And that is that you think that you need to launch with everything out the gate. You think that you need to put out all of these different varieties of products. That way your audience will know that you sell everything that they can ever imagine. In reality, you can hop out the gate with a select few products and just prove to them that you solve the problem that they have in a unique way, okay? That is an element of branding. When you hop out the gate with a ton of products that's spread across different varieties, you honestly kind of confuse your audience a little bit, and you put unnecessary stress on yourself as a new business owner. So keep that in mind, because the suggestions and the advice that I'm going to give you are all based off of creating collections within your business. So the first type of business I want to talk about is a clothing business. If I were to launch a clothing business, I would honestly launch with about 7 to 10 pieces, okay? Typically in the clothing industry, you have packs of 6 that come from the vendor. Some vendors give you more, some vendors give you less. But on average, you have a pack of 6 for each piece that you decide to purchase. So that means if you do 7, then you have 42 total pieces. And if you do 10 types of pieces, then you have a total of 60 pieces. So I would honestly launch with anywhere between 7 to 10 pieces. If you can afford a little bit more, then I would say put together 7 to 10 full looks. And then that gives you possibly 84 total pieces or, 120 total pieces if your full looks are 2-piece outfits. If I were to launch a shoe brand, which I actually already had a shoe boutique, so I know this very well. If I were to get into the shoe industry, I would honestly only launch with 5 different styles of shoes. And the reason for this is because in the shoe industry, vendors typically package your shoes in packs of 12. And in the shoe industry, there are a ton of different sizes, and women's feet tend to be wonky. Heck, if you're selling men's shoes, that's wonky as well. And you're always gonna be left over with the sizes that don't really sell, okay? So what you wanna do in the shoe world is you want to start with a small amount when it comes to selections and learn the sizes among your audience. What are the average sizes? What are the popular sizes? And then you can adjust your packs as you go. That way you don't have as much left over as you continue in business. And then if I were launching a skincare or a cosmetic brand, I would use the power of sets. So let's say I had a regimen that was 5 steps. You need to use 5 of my products to get clear skin, right? I would bundle all of those 5 products into a set or a bundle, and I would sell that for a certain price. That price would be cheaper than if you were to get those 5 items individually on their own. That will allow me to push that as my debut collection, but then it also guarantees a transformation for my audience. And not only that, I would also sell my individual items as well. So each of those 5 items I will sell individually for the price, like the original price, and not the discounted price that you'd get it for in the set. So if I was starting off with sets and individual items, I would probably launch with about 25 of each set and about 5 items per individual item. There you have it. Now you can create your very own inventory strategy for your launch. I know that throughout this video, price was mentioned. When we talked about goals and how that factors into your inventory, you have to know your price in order to know the calculations to figure out how much inventory you have. And even in the example I gave about skincare and cosmetics, when I mentioned sets versus individual items, I mentioned price again. So price is gonna be a reoccurring theme as you prepare for your launch, which is why in the next video of Launchathon, I am actually sharing how to price your products for profit. That way you can ensure that you have the right price out the gate when you launch. If you're interested in that, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, but obviously go and check it out when it actually posts, okay? And if you're watching this after it's posted, it'll probably be on the end screen, so that way you can just click it and watch that video next. I hope that you learned a lot from this video. If you think that what I taught you in this video is something, it is only the tip of the iceberg. You definitely want to make sure that you are at the 90-day launch training so you can get even more launch tea, okay? If you made it to the end of this video, I want to show you some love. So hop in the comment section and comment, "I'm in there." If you made it all the way to the end, comment, "I'm in there," so I can know that you are a true hustle babe who made it all the way to the end of the video. If you are not subscribed to this channel, what are you doing? Hit the subscription button and hit the notification bell. Also follow me on Instagram at The Brand Hustler and follow me on TikTok, okay? Because it goes down over there at The Brand Hustler as well. And I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye, hustle babes. Peace.